How you doing, YouTube? Matt Massive Beer Reviews. Back with a little bit of mystery beer. Oh, mystery beers. They're the best. This one comes courtesy of Tyler. Thank you very much, homie. He sent me off a box of New England Jammers. And we'll see what this one has to offer. Yeah, what are we up to right now? I mean, this looks like kind of old school IPA, very similar to the other one that I cracked from him straight out of the box. A little bit more hazy, delicious, sweet, kind of Christmas-laden, wrapping kind of vibes when it comes to the whole mystery beer. Dig it. Like different stuff people throw into mystery beers and that. Yeah, she looks like old school hazy New England style IPA, to be perfectly honest with you. Last time I actually dove into one of these from him was when I actually did the unboxing, and I did like one right out of the box. I kind of said, oh, that kind of reminds me of like, you know, a Sip of Sunshine, kind of Second Fiddle, and I was like, oh, it's not really like a Alchemist kind of beer, because it just doesn't have that look. This has that look to it, because it has that kind of telltale floaty, the whole reason they put drink out of the can on the can itself, so it looks like a big New England style IPA with a decent amount of kind of big bits of floaties kind of going on in this sucker. So yeah, rich golden in color, looks like a big hazy. Let's get a nose. Citrus, all the way. Just straight citrus. Like OJ citrus. Like super OJ, maybe a little bit cranked up, maybe getting a little bit towards that Orangina kind of Sunny D vibe. But it's all about the OJ. So you're talking about single IPA, double IPA, very citrus leaning, not overly bitter. I wouldn't say there's anything as far as bittering going on here. There's all kinds of orange sweetness. Let's dive in. I mean, pretty much follows exactly to suit. There is a bittering component to it, but it's not like over the top bittering. It's more of a generic kind of rindy bittering, but it's very sweet, leaning heavily sweet, leaning heavily orange juice, very from concentrate kind of orangeness going on in this one. And that's pretty much it. Outside of that soft kind of generic kind of bittering, not a great mouthfeel, not thin, not thick, just kind of there. I don't think it's an Alchemist beer. Look-wise, sure, but as far as taste goes, I mean, it just comes off. Let's put it this way. I didn't look at the bottom of this can. I could see this actually being an aged beer. An aged IPA. Because I feel like there's a hop presence there. It's not too big, but I feel like it's almost like a ghost of hops past. I could be wrong on that one. But yeah, bittering component is getting a little bit bigger with each sip, so it's definitely there. There's dating on the bottom, so it's definitely not an Alchemist beer. A little bit of cheating on my end. That's pretty much it. What is this? With how sweet this is, it's in 7.8% New England style IPA. I don't want to say it actually has an orange addition in it, but it's so orange forward that I almost kind of want to say that. But it's just, you know, core 4, 7.8%, kind of on the line of a single double IPA. Done. I can't think of who this would be by, but I would venture to say this might be a little bit of a shelf jammer. Let's put it that way. Sticker can, so it might not be the case, but it has this kind of overt sweetness, this residual sugar thing, and the hops don't get overly kind of in your face to the point where it actually kind of makes sense of being one of those kind of beers. So it's Duck Sauce from I did call it the ABV. Duck Sauce from Stillwater Artisanal, so it is a shelf beer. Strumke does his beers, and they pretty much all dish show via shelf. It's double India Pale Ale brewed with apricot, plum, and pineapple, ginger, and candied syrup. I get the candied syrup portion of the show. There is an overt sweetness to it. Ginger, not really getting that in there. I said apricot, plum. I said, you know, I believed it was a core 4 beer, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was a little bit of kind of a fruit addition, because it's how vibrant it came forward. Fruit-wise, they talk about apricot here. I thought it was more citrus leaning, and it's 9%. So about a 1.2% off. But yeah, it's a fine beer. I'm okay with everything I said on it, because it didn't drink like 9% for me. It just was overly sweet. I actually thought I shot a little bit lower because of how much extra sweetness was in there. I thought it was somebody trying to make a bigger beer, and they kind of missed, and they had that big residual sugar factor to it. So hence the reason for going 7.8. Now it kind of makes sense here with that kind of candy sugar going on here. I don't know what he's kind of going for here. Obviously it's some kind of like Asian influenced food thing, duck sauce. I guess, the orange apricot candied syrup thing, he's going for a duck sauce kind of thing. And it kind of makes sense if I think about it that way, because how orange it does come off. Not a big duck sauce fan, so it kind of makes sense why I'm not going overtly gaga for this beer. But at the same time, I think it's interesting. I mean, plum really missed for me. Pineapple's kind of there, but that's kind of imparted from the beer itself. Ginger doesn't really come in there at all. I'm very sensitive to ginger. The candied syrup kind of explains that big kind of sweetness portion of our show. So let's talk about it. Is it one of the better double IPAs that I've had as of late? No. Just doesn't work for me. Just a little bit too sweet. Here's the weird part about it. As just double IPA blind, it doesn't really do much for me. Knowing what it is and what they're trying to do, I enjoy it more. I enjoy it more as a non-blind beer because it kind of makes more sense knowing what it is as opposed to just being a double IPA. So it's not one of the better double IPAs I've had as of late, but it's one of the more funner kind of fuckduckeries when it comes to a double IPA, at least kind of leaning into that kind of culinary world kind of vibe. Value availability, I mean, still Waters prices aren't great, but they're not horrible. They float somewhere in between. You're talking about a 9% beer with a bunch of ingredients going on. I'm sure there's close to $20 a 4-pack. Obviously not brewery only because he doesn't have a brewery. And leave you with, if you like what we like this beer, if you like duck sauce, if you like big, huge double IPAs, and you like people fucking around with flavors, because that's what you have going on here. And I could see this, again, being a funner beer, knowing what it is. But for me, it was just kind of a big, sweet, extra sweet kind of double IPA. And some of the more interesting components in there didn't really come off blind, so I don't think they'll be there when you're actually, know what you're getting into. But it's a fun beer nonetheless, and a fun mystery beer, super fun mystery beer. So thank you very much, Tyler. So there you go, another review in the books. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Down there if you want to talk about it. Massive Beers if you want to check me out doing the social media stuff. Beer Massive. If you want to check me out doing the whole podcasting thing, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. Hopefully you're enjoying a nice little beer right now, mystery or otherwise, and hopefully see you next time. Cheers.